Welcome to Professor Academy. Today also we'll be dealing with some of the questions of research aptitude, and today we'll be discussing questions of 2019 June shifts. So let's see how the questions goes. Moving on to the first question. A hypothesis is A certain and established finding, B, a part of the research question, C, a strategy of evaluating data, and D, a tentative statement providing an explanation. So we are very sure that we have highly repeated question and we have already discussed what is a hypothesis, and there is no doubt it is a tentative statement providing an explanation. Especially when you look at this explanation, this will be basically on the relationship between a dependent variable and independent variable. That the explanation is regarding the relationship between a dependent variable and a dependent variable. Yeah. So the right answer is option D. Moving on to question number 2. Tertiary source of data is A, films, hoardings and posters, B, government gazette, newspapers and magazines, C, information derived from both primary and secondary sources, D, data collected from policy papers. And tertiary source of data is finally, the right answer is option C, that is information derived from both primary and secondary sources. Actually, tertiary sources are those sources which help us to identify the primary and secondary sources, like abstracts, indexes, references, or all are examples of tertiary sources. It guides us to the primary and secondary sources. So that is, they help us to get information or help us to derive information from primary and secondary sources. Moving on to question number 3. A good review of research literature aims at option A, subjective analysis of the content. Option B, provides information about authors and their affiliations. Option C, generate research question and validating those questions. Option D, conduct multiple task-based screening. So when you look at a good literature review, this when you see all 4 options, it do everything like this. It help us to understand the subjective analysis, provides information about the previous authors, the people who have already done work behind it. So we get all this, but the optimal answer about a good review of literature is that it generate research question and validate those questions. We have already discussed in our classes, the main purpose of a literature review is to find out the gap in the existing knowledge or the existing information. So research gap is something we have to find after going through the existing literature. So it's generate research questions and validate those questions. Why it is necessary to go for that particular research? Why people haven't done it? Why it is necessary to go and analyze that particular question should be. That is finding the literature, the research gap is the major aim and purpose of a literature review. So option C is the most optimal answer for this particular question. Moving on to question number 4. A researcher fails to reject the null hypothesis, that is H0, in his or her research. What implication will it carry for his or her principal research hypothesis? The principal research hypothesis is the alternative hypothesis. That is option A, accepting the research hypothesis, B, rejecting the research hypothesis, C, not taking any decision on research hypothesis, D, improving the research hypothesis. Here it is shown that the researcher failed to reject the null hypothesis. Failed to reject the hypothesis means automatically he have to accept the null hypothesis. It means whenever they fail to reject the null hypothesis, we have to reject the research hypothesis or the alternative hypothesis. That is what is going to happen. That will be the ultimate conclusion about the research hypothesis. Whenever the null hypothesis fail to reject it, then it means it reject the research hypothesis or the alternative hypothesis. So option B is the right answer for this question. Moving on to the final question for today. The research design is specifically related to which of the following features in research? 1. Sample selection. 2. Formulation of a plan. 3. Deciding about the tool for data collection. 4. Hypothesis making. 6, choice of a field of inquiry. And this is all about research design. That is the framework that you create for a data collection, sampling process and all. So that is the fourth and important step in the overall research process. And we can very surely eliminate one of the options here, that is hypothesis making. Hypothesis making, the formulation of hypothesis is a step which is just before research design, forming of the research design or study design. So option 4 could be definitely eliminated. Then considering or going to the above options, we can see that option A consists of hypothesis making, option C consists of hypothesis making, and option D consists of hypothesis making. Ultimately, we can conclude the answer is that first one, sample selection, then formulation of a plan, and deciding about the tool for data collection is the ultimate purpose of research design or the feature of research design. So that's all for today. Option B will be the right answer for this question. So continue practicing, keep studying. Thank you. Thank you.